Member for Dennery.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when my week was planned, I did not foresee myself being in the Parliament today. Today is report book distribution day at my son's school, and this is where I had planned to spend the day. So, Mr. Speaker, I will contribute to the motion before us, and I may have to make an exit, hoping to return in time to catch the tail end of the debate. Mr. Speaker, I want to start off by stating that I am of the firm belief that the sporting infrastructure of this country needs improving. Mr. Speaker, in comparison to what obtains in the other Eastern Caribbean territories, I think St. Lucia has for some time now been lagging behind the other islands. And so any amount that is committed to the development of community sporting infrastructure, that, Mr. Speaker, will objectively receive the support of the member for Dennery North. But, Mr. Speaker, I am vehemently opposed to the government's approach to this particular initiative, where in excess of $24 million, Mr. Speaker, will be paid to a foreign company to undertake the development of sporting infrastructure in this country. And, Mr. Speaker, this approach is not right, in my opinion, on two counts. Firstly, this is a government that conveniently represents the interest of the average St. Lucian. And just recently, Mr. Speaker, when we debated a motion for the Dennery North Water Redevelopment Project, the line minister and member for Babono, in his presentation on that particular motion, one of the things he said, Mr. Speaker, was that the condition for the loan had to be rearranged or altered with a view to giving the contractors of the valley an opportunity to do the work. And whereas I'm not against that, Mr. Speaker, it's something that I fully support. Today, we have a situation where what is being proposed by way of sporting infrastructure upgrades, this, Mr. Speaker, can be done by locals. This can be done by citizens of St. Lucia, and St. Lucia has the expertise, Mr. Speaker, of persons who can actually deliver what the government has been putting forward. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister, in presenting the motion, gave the impression that there are too many playing fields in this country. And the figure he quoted, Mr. Speaker, was somewhere in the region of 170. And on average, you will have 10 facilities per constituency, or thereabout. Well, he said on average, there will be 10 per constituency. Mr. Speaker, I fully understand that not all the facilities in this country will be at the same level, and that you need to have regional facilities or in strategic zones in the country to complement the smaller playing fields and playground. But to give the impression that there are too many playing fields in this country, that can never augur well for the development or the creation of a sporting culture in this country. And maybe that is why today we have so many of these playing facilities in a state of abandonment. Premier Minister, il a parlé et qui présenté motion, Mr. Speaker. Il a nous l'impression that l'année top playing fields et puis top grounds bowl a pays cette ici pour le moment. Et qui also dit nous that peut-être yon se raison yo pas en bonne condition c'est piste l'année top. Ça c'est un bagage, Mr. Speaker, moi pas d'accord et puis et ça c'est un bagage moi croire that nous pas supposé d'accord et puis pièce. Because facilities on their own will not produce world-class athletes. Yes, they are necessary, and it is something that we recognized. It is something we were very sensitive to during the reign of the St. Lucia Labour Party administration. But on their own, facilities will not give you the world-class athletes that we're looking for. So that, Mr. Speaker, when you take this quantum just to upgrade the facilities only. Yes, this is commendable. But what happens to the existing playing fields in the different pocket communities of St. Lucia? As we speak, the majority of community playgrounds in St. Lucia are abandoned. Abandoned, they cannot be used. And if you go into the constituency of Barbono this morning, the Lague playing field, Mr. Speaker, that is in a state of abandonment. And if you go to Lakai, the playing field is in a condition that is less than desirable. The same can be said about Bel Air. And perhaps, Mr. Speaker, the worst in the country was the Bexar playing field. And recently there was an attempt made to salvage the Bexar playing field just to cut it and to make it a little more easy on the eye. But it is still, after 2 weeks, Mr. Speaker, it is in a condition where it cannot be used by the young people of that community. And instead, Mr. Speaker, what do you have? You have horses, you have cattle and small ruminants grazing on playing fields. So, as I said, whereas I am not opposed to the upgrade of facilities to a particular standard in communities, that should never happen at the expense of the existing smaller fields and playgrounds in the different communities. Because it is by creating a sporting culture, you will produce world-class athletes. Yes, facilities are a critical component, but you must have the backing of the populace, the grandparents, the neighbors, the uncles. They must come out to the different school sporting activities to lend support and to motivate the children. And most of the young children, Mr. Speaker, at the ages of 3, 4, 5, they begin to exhibit their talent right on that little playing field that is situated in the backyard. So whereas you can come with all the grandiose plans, and whereas I am for the upgrade of facilities, as I said, that should never happen at the expense of the little playing fields that are abundant in the different pockets of our community. Mr. Speaker, we were very sensitive to the plight of the sportsmen and women in this country as it relates to infrastructure and facilities. And it is for this reason, when the St. Lucia Labour Party government was in office, or when the St. Lucia Labour Party was in office, we spent millions of dollars to upgrade facilities in every pocket community of this country. Because we understood how important facilities were in creating that sporting culture. And I recall, Mr. Speaker, as the Minister for Youth Development and Sports, driving to the various pocket communities in this country on a Saturday and on a Sunday. Thousands of people, Mr. Speaker, flocking the playing fields to support cricket, football, and different programs. Today, as we speak, that is not happening in a number of districts, Mr. Speaker. That is not happening in a number of communities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we resurfaced playing fields. We installed lights. We refurbished courts. We constructed community pavilions. We procured equipment, uniforms, boots, track shoes to put on the feet of the students who were running barefooted at the stadium representing their various secondary schools. We supported national athletes like Julian Alfred. We had to give her a stipend when an opportunity came for her to go to Jamaica. We gave her a stipend, Mr. Speaker. And when the United Workers' Party government came into office, they stopped it. They stopped it. And it was after the parent came to persons like myself, the member for Castries South and other members opposite, pressure was applied and the amount was reinstated. We have a number of athletes today, and the member for Soufrière mentioned a few, who act on scholarship as we speak. It was as a result of the support that they received from the Labour Party government. But we are not in the business, Mr. Speaker, of coming here to boast what we have done. We are not in the business of coming here to hit our chest. But I know what sports can do for the development of a young person. I am a product of the youth and sports system in this country. I know what it is like to put on national colors, like a few persons in here. So that when we went in there, and I had the mandate as the minister, Mr. Speaker, I was not doing it because somebody had assigned me a responsibility in government. I was doing it because I understood the plight of the sports people in this country. And I've made the point before, when governments or cabinets sit, every day we give concessions, millions of dollars of concessions in the name of development, in the name of investment. And then we believe that when we spend a certain amount of money on the young people of this country, Mr. Speaker, it is not justified. Mr. Speaker, it is the St. Lucia Labour Party administration that completed Gold Project number 1. And we all know the story about the Gold Project. When the Gold Project was first conceived during the Labour Party, no, this is Gold Project number 2. Gold Project number 1 was completed during our term in office, and we started Gold Project number 2. Gold Project number 1, after the site for the training facility had been changed so many times, FIFA representatives sat with us, and we decided that we were going to change the project from a training facility to an administrative building for the Football Association, which is known today as Football House, situated at Leclerc. And it was the St. Lucia Labour Party government that gave the concessions and the necessary support to the St. Lucia Football Association to make that happen. The plan, Mr. Speaker, was that in 2013-14, that the president of FIFA would have been on island to formally commission Football House and would have profited the opportunity to get him to break the sword for the commencement of the training ground. And so today, Mr. Speaker, if you drive into the Mabuya Valley, you will see a spanking facility known as Gold Project 2. But with all the scandal that FIFA had been embroiled in, they have decided not to use the name Gold anymore, and FIFA prefers for those projects to be known as Forward. And it was during the reign of the St. Lucia Labour Party government that these things happened. Mr. Speaker, the government of the St. Lucia Labour Party started the process for the construction of a 50-meter pool. And I heard the Prime Minister mention a number of pools that the government intends to construct in different communities in the country. Mr. Speaker, I have made the point before and I will make it again. Any investment that is made by any government in this country for the development of sports will receive my full support. Because I've understood, as I said, that sport is a meaningful avenue through which the human potential can be realized. But we have to do a lot more than what is being done today. Mr. Speaker, last week I got a call all the way from the US. I don't know where he got my number from, but a young man by the name of Nanji Philip. He's a national footballer who is currently studying at Louisiana State University. His tuition fee of $3,500 could not have been met. And you can well imagine, Mr. Speaker, the distress that this could cause to a young man who is away from home and does not have the immediate support of family, having to grapple with a situation like this. And this is a young man who is part of a national sporting team. This is a national representative. Mr. Speaker, I had very little choice. I tried to comfort him with words. That is all I could have done for him at the time. And then, without seeking the permission of the personal assistant to the minister responsible for sport, I gave him a number to contact the personal assistant. Last I checked, Mr. Speaker, the personal assistant told me that he was in touch with the young man and something was being done to assist him. We have a young man from the community of Grosile by the name of Dalton Polius. He has represented St. Lucia at the under 15 level, under 17 level, under 19 level, and at the senior level. Every year, Dalton Polius and scores of young cricketers, they get an opportunity, an invitation to play cricket in the UK. These are young men who do not necessarily, Mr. Speaker, get employment in St. Lucia. So they profit the opportunity during the UK summer to go to the UK for about 5-6 weeks, and they make good money while they're up there to complement whatever little that they have. When we were in government, Mr. Speaker, we used to help them out by providing a plane ticket. Accommodation, food, and other living expenses in the UK would have been theirs to meet, Mr. Speaker. For 2 years, Dalton Polius, knocking on the doors of the government, asking for a ticket to go and play his little league cricket in the UK, where he is killing two birds with one stone. He gets to refine his skills to better equip him and prepare him to represent the national team. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, it is a form of livelihood for him. On both occasions, Dalton Polius has been turned down. And there are a number of other young sportsmen and women in this country who come and they tell those stories. And it breaks my heart. And this is not a blame game. All I am trying to do here this morning, Mr. Speaker, is to give expression to the concerns of those young sportsmen and women whose parents and the family structure do not enable them to have the means. They're not like some where the parents can pay a ticket for their children and accompany their children on meets overseas, especially in certain sporting disciplines. But these same athletes, when they do well on the international stage, we are always happy to be parading them and trying to make mileage on their achievements. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, this is wrong. We have to support our young people in a more tangible way. Mr. Speaker, the Packer Company or the Packer Group, I don't know them to have any expertise in the area of sporting infrastructure upgrades or development. But what I know is that what is being proposed here today, can be done by locals. We have in the person of Kent Crafton, one of the best curators, not just in St. Lucia and the region, but in the world. And Kent has been used as a resource person to facilitate workshops for the International Cricket Council in places like Dubai and other regions of the world. We have in the person of Martinus Avril, an excellent curator who can give you a surface that is just as pristine as what you will get at some of the best and most renowned international venues in the world. Places like Wimbledon and Wembley and those other mecca facilities in the world. We have the expertise, and I do not believe that we had to go to the Packer Company to come to St. Lucia to deliver for us what I believe we have people who can do for ourselves. Mr. Speaker, I was hoping that the PowerPoint presentation would have preceded my presentation. But from what I have gleaned from the documents that I have perused in the last few weeks, is that we will be putting down artificial surfaces. Now, my position on artificial surfaces is absolutely clear. I believe those have to be used in places where it is virtually impossible, to manicure and produce a natural surface. For two reasons. One, for us in St. Lucia, we are not in a climatic zone where this is the best option to embrace. We have the climatic conditions that will cause us to create natural surfaces that will deliver quality play, quality players, and at the same time complementing all the goals and aspirations that we've espoused from an environmental standpoint. The natural grass, Mr. Speaker, helps in the reduction of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which indirectly helps us attain some of what we want to achieve as it relates to global warming and climate change. When you put an artificial surface, Mr. Speaker, in St. Lucia, where the temperature on an average, the temperature in St. Lucia is somewhere between 87 degrees Fahrenheit to 91 degrees Fahrenheit. And Mr. Speaker, the heat can be an issue and it can be a problem. In places like Canada and the US, when the temperature rises, before students or children can be allowed to go on those artificial surfaces, they have to be watered to take the temperature down to make it suitable for play. There is also a problem, Mr. Speaker, with drainage in the wider area where those surfaces are being laid. When you have a natural surface, natural grass and soil, and it rains, you have a much faster rate of infiltration into the ground. With the artificial surface, Mr. Speaker, there is a tendency for you to have greater runoff, thereby leading to very quick flooding or flash flooding in the areas where those facilities are laid. So, Mr. Speaker, it is something that we have to reconsider. Yes, I am for the 400-meter track. And if we can have 3 other communities in St. Lucia where we can put down 400-meter tracks, Mr. Speaker, I will be the first to come here and support. I am not against the upgrade of sporting infrastructure. But all I'm saying is that there are certain aspects of the plan that we have to revisit and we have to reconsider. So, Mr. Speaker, in a place like Dennery South, we know of the flooding problems in Dennery South. And I'm hoping that, Mr. Speaker, that the artificial surface that was being spoken about for Dennery South will not be an artificial surface, but in fact, Mr. Speaker, we'll have a turf surface with natural grass, as I said, that will allow for a faster rate of infiltration after we've had rains. So, Mr. Speaker, I, as I've said before, support the initiative to upgrade community sporting infrastructure. It is necessary. But I also believe that whilst we are at the planning stage and we are busy trying to get the financing to make these things happen, the young people of places like La Pelle in my constituency, which you know very well, Mr. Speaker, the playing field is in a state of abandonment, where now it is extremely difficult for me to go to the horse owners and tell them that you cannot, the horses for DSH, these horses might not qualify, to tell them that they have to find somewhere else to tie their animals. This is unacceptable. And everywhere you drive in the country, it is the same refrain from young people. And anybody in this honorable house who can stand up and defend that, Mr. Speaker, not only are you against the young people of this country, but, Mr. Speaker, your conscience needs to be examined. Because this can never be right. And whether it is the United Workers' Party government that is in office, or the St. Lucia Labour Party that is in office, abundant playing fields in this country is something that we all must take a position on, and we should never condone playing fields being abandoned in the country at a time when we have monies to spend on things that, in my opinion, and that of the people of Dennery are not relevant to the economic development of this country today. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, I support the initiative. Yes, I support for playing fields, Mr. Speaker, and facilities to be upgraded. But I'm saying, again, l'année, yon de bagay en plan ça, gouvernement qui posé changer, et gouvernement n'est pour catcher about encore. Et comme on dit, ça y a créé artificial surface, qu'on y a bail qu'on zeb, mais c'est pas real zeb qui là. Ça pas bon pour une place qu'on sent ici, pour plus qui 12 mois, on est plus que 12 mois, on est en l'année à Mr. Speaker. En l'année à Mr. Speaker. On est chalet, et c'est pas bon. The member, Mr. Speaker, for Castries South is talking about artificial surface in the valley. Yes, there's an artificial surface in the valley. When the proposal was made to us, they wanted for the trading facility as well as the main playing facility, both of them to be artificial surfaces. And we took a position and said that could never happen under our watch. The main playing field ought to remain as a natural grass surface. And that is why today you do not have the main Grand Riviere playing field as an artificial surface. But adjacent to it is a trading facility, the dimensions of which are a lot less than the main playing area. So it is not a case where I come here today to speak against artificial surfaces and then I was the one who presided over one being conceived for my constituency. That is not the case at all. I did say, Mr. Speaker, I did say that we need to reconsider where these artificial surfaces are going. We need to take into consideration the people who are going to use them. And in places like Canada, the US, and some countries in Europe, this is a last resort when they are having difficulty sustaining grass on a natural surface. But to just take this thing, Mr. Speaker, from North America or wherever and just come and implement it in St. Lucia, I think is a bit reckless, and this thing needs to be reconsidered. So, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of Dennery North, let me say that the government, whereas the resources committed to this particular project is a substantial amount, the government might well want to reconsider the individuals chosen to do that particular project. Mr. Speaker, I suspect this might be our last engagement in this House for the year, and so on behalf of the people of Dennery North, I want to take the opportunity to wish members on both sides of the political divide a very Merry Christmas and best wishes for the ensuing calendar year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.